The Galactic Council chamber was a cavernous dome of mirrored glass and floating insignias, humming with the faint buzz of 1,000 languages being simultaneously translated by crystalline drones the size of dragonflies. The room smelled faintly of ozone, sandalwood, and whatever passed for cologne among the reptilian delegates of the Drask Confederacy. Ambassador Rachel Owen stepped onto the obsidian-tiled floor, as though she'd wandered in looking for a book club. She wore a sleek navy suit, immaculately pressed, with a vintage enamel pin of a cat on her lapel. A cup of steaming oolong hovered beside her in a personal grav-tea unit. The council chamber's ambient temperature adjusted 2 degrees warmer in her presence, as it did whenever a new biosignature was registered. Rachel didn't seem to notice. She was smiling. The council had expected someone more grizzled. Perhaps a general. Maybe a diplomat with visible cybernetics. Instead they got Rachel. Calm, friendly, barely armed, and, worst of all, confident in a way that unsettled the senior members of the Zith coalition. From across the elongated elliptical table, which was technically a levitating biosynthetic organism named Harold, Ambassador Glurthax of the Yargrul emitted a wet clicking sound. It was the Yargrul equivalent of a sigh, though in this case it sounded more like 2 squids fighting in a bathtub. "Ambassador Owen," Glurthax said, tendrils adjusting the crystalline monocle fused to what might have been his dominant eye stalk. "We were informed Earth would be sending its top negotiator. I presume you are her assistant?" Rachel set her tea down. "Oh, heavens no. I'm the top negotiator. My assistant is back on Earth, keeping my succulents alive. A far graver task." Several delegates chuckled. Glurthax did not. He undulated once, disapprovingly. "Then allow me to express our surprise," he said with a curl of his dorsal fronds. "The matter at hand is not a casual trade dispute. The mineral rights on Gorthex 7 are of vital strategic importance." Rachel nodded cheerfully. "Of course. Gorthex 7 contains over 70% of known crystallized antimatter veins, and the Council's current split allocates just 2% to Earth, despite our discovery of the deposit." Tyrix, the Kralathi envoy, shifted in his sleek grav-chair. The Kralathi were insectoid, regal, with chitin that shimmered like oil slicks under council lighting. Unlike Glurthax, Tyrix did not underestimate humans, or at least, he didn't anymore. "You speak with knowledge and clarity, Ambassador," Tyrix said. "Yet many here believe Earth's claim is premature. Young, by galactic standards." Rachel's smile widened half a centimeter. "Youth can be deceiving, envoy. Some creatures hatch fully formed and venomous." That earned a slow blink from Tyrix, the Kralathi version of a laugh. Glurthax clicked again, his irritation barely masked. "Be that as it may," the Yargrul said. "Your people lack the extraction technology, the logistics infrastructure, and frankly, the wisdom to steward such a volatile resource." Rachel sipped her tea. "True. We do tend to learn under pressure. It's made us inventive." The murmur that spread through the chamber was more than amusement. It was laced with the uneasy awareness of how quickly humans had climbed the galactic ladder. Less than a century ago, they'd barely scraped beyond their moon. Now, they were seated at the same table as empires older than Earth's written history. And they did it without asking permission. Harold, the table organism, projected a soft chime, a gentle reminder that the session had begun. A translucent screen shimmered in front of each delegate, displaying the proposed amendment Rachel had submitted mere hours before her arrival. Glurthax glanced at it and curled 2 tentacles dismissively. "You propose a 20% stake. Outrageous. What justification could your people possibly offer for such a claim?" Rachel leaned forward, folding her hands. "Our justification is simple. We're the only ones who haven't tried to weaponize the ore." A heavy silence followed. The Drask ambassador bristled, scales rattling. "That accusation is baseless." "Is it?" Rachel asked, turning her gaze to him, then the others. 3 months ago, a pirate fleet of unknown origin raided Gorthex's orbiting research stations. They targeted Yargrulone platforms, all of which were developing compression field disruptors. Conveniently, those prototypes are now missing. Glurthax's fronds curled tightly. You suggest Earth was uninvolved? Oh no, Rachel said pleasantly. We were very involved. We rescued your scientists. You're welcome. More murmurs. Some amused, some alarmed. But, she continued, we noticed how everyone else scrambled to conceal their activities after the raid. Which is interesting. Because Earth's only been mining for medical isotope use. Which, as far as I know, doesn't require a planetary annihilation mechanism. The Zith delegate, a gelatinous being that communicated via scent and fluctuating luminescence, emitted the aroma of confusion. Their lights pulsed uncertainly. Glurthax narrowed his eyes. Are you threatening us, Ambassador? Rachel blinked. Threatening? Oh no. I'm clarifying. We like to be clear. Tyrix tilted his head, antennae twitching. So Earth's position is, give us a bigger cut or we reveal everyone's dirty secrets? Rachel considered. I suppose that's one way to put it. But really, we're just offering transparency. We Earthlings are big on truth these days. Helps everyone sleep better. The chamber darkened slightly as Harold initiated privacy shielding. When it returned to full light, the tone in the room had shifted. The condescension was giving way to caution. Rachel stood, slowly. Her voice was still gentle. We came here today not to demand, but to prevent escalation. Earth is expanding. Peacefully if possible. But if we're going to be dismissed, marginalized, or worse, treated like children at a grown-up table, well, you'll find we're very good at games. Especially the ones with high stakes. Is that a challenge? Glurthax asked. No, she said, taking her tea again. It's a warning. The friendly kind. She smiled and nodded politely at a passing crystalline servitor drone, which promptly dropped its tray of snacks when it caught her gaze. Tyrix's mandibles clacked together. And what if the council votes against your proposal? Rachel looked at him. For a second, just a flicker, her smile vanished. Her eyes turned colder than vacuum. Then I'll have to notify my team. And I assure you, no one wants that. Not even me. The silence that followed was profound. Glurthax rose, gurgling with restrained fury. This is outrageous. The council will not be strong-armed by upstart mammals. Rachel sighed, stepped forward and tapped her screen. A holographic display appeared, footage from orbit around Gorthex 7. Clear, time-stamped evidence of illegal mining operations. Names. Frequencies. Biometric tags. All tagged and categorized neatly. Earth doesn't need to strong-arm anyone, Ambassador. We just read the fine print. As Harold digested the data, literally, it was a living table after all. Each delegate received a copy. Several began muttering. The Drask representative suddenly became very interested in the floor. Rachel turned to go. I'll return tomorrow for the vote, she said lightly. Do take your time reviewing the documents. I know some of you struggle with human file formats. As she approached the chamber doors, Tyrix's voice reached her one last time. You could have demanded more, Ambassador. Why only 20%? Rachel paused. She looked over her shoulder. Because 20 is enough to keep the peace. And because humans aren't greedy. Not like you think. She winked. But if you insist, we can renegotiate. Then she stepped through the archway, her T-unit trailing behind like a loyal pet. The chamber buzzed into chaos as the council members scoured the data, each realizing in real time how thoroughly they'd been surveilled. And by whom? Tyrix sat in silence, staring at the door Rachel had exited through. He had warned them. Warned them all. The Kralathi knew the truth. Humans didn't dominate because of superior weapons or numbers. They dominated because they were underestimated, right up until it was too late. And somewhere, deep in the bowels of the diplomacy station, a small signal blinked to life. Operation Red Velvet. Stand by. Ambassador Rachel Owen didn't return to her quarters immediately after the council session. Instead, she wandered, or appeared to, through the curving luminous corridors of Diplomacy Nexus Prime, her heels tapping gently against the floor's synthetic stone. The station's architecture had been designed to impress. Long panoramic windows revealed the stars like an infinite audience, and golden etchings along the walls shimmered with encoded treaties from 100 worlds. It all reeked of civilization's self-importance. She paused before a viewing deck, sipped her tea, still hot, and checked her reflection in the glass. No blood. No cracks in her smile. Good. The internal calm pinged. "Ma'am," said a voice in her ear, filtered through 10 layers of encryption. "The Glurthack's transmission has been decoded. He's rallying support to vote down the proposal." She didn't sigh. She never sighed where anyone could see it. "Expected," she said. "Forward the data packet to my personal drop. Tag the language inconsistencies. They'll contradict themselves within the hour." "Yes, ma'am. Also, Operation Red Velvet is at 30% deployment." Rachel gave a tiny, unhurried nod. "Tell them to pace it. No premature frosting." She resumed walking. Elsewhere on the station, Ambassador Glurthax was doing what Yargrul did best, politicking through intimidation and mucus. In his private conference orb, a pressurized sphere filled with faintly bioluminescent fog, he flailed his manipulation tendrils as he addressed the gathered delegates via holocall. "She's using psychological manipulation," he raged. "Humans are soft-spoken vipers, and she's wrapping this council around her delicate, tea-stained fingers." The Drask ambassador, a hulking reptiloid with a voice like grinding gears, flicked his tongue in contemplation. "She did provide evidence. Real evidence." "And since when do we reward extortion?" Glurthax spat, quite literally. "Since it's less messy than war," replied Tyrix, who joined the call in spectral form. "Besides, it's not extortion if she's right." Glurthax coiled in fury. "You're all blind. This isn't diplomacy. It's a prelude." "To what?" the Zith delegate asked, glowing in muted confusion. Glurthax's voice dropped, heavy with dread. "To something the humans call Plan B." Back in her suite, Rachel removed her jacket, revealing the subtle carbon weave lining that had stopped 3 assassination attempts in the last year. The room was minimal: a few art pieces, a bonsai tree, and a framed copy of Earth's first interstellar contract. It was all a carefully curated lie. The real tools of her trade were in the encrypted drawers and layered documents on her wrist pad. She activated a file labeled Lullabies, and began sifting through the surveillance intercepts. Every alien delegate who had mocked Earth's claim now had their encrypted chatter parsed, translated, and annotated with gentle red highlights. She made notes. Tone shifts, inconsistencies, who hesitated when, who blinked. Emotional tells. In this galaxy, warfare came in bursts of plasma, but control came in the subtleties. Her AI assistant, Franklin, chirped to life. "Ambassador," it said in a voice modeled after a kindly British librarian, "Glurthax is requesting a private discussion. Tone: adversarial. Confidence level: 74%. Hidden weapon systems detected in his retinue." Rachel smiled. "Accept. And send a reminder to Harold that the Council's biological table has diplomatic immunity, not Glurthax's backup security team." Franklin paused. Acknowledged. "Should I deploy the polite threat subroutine?" She considered. "No. Let's be hospitable. Hospitality unnerves him." 10 minutes later, Glurthax arrived in a cloud of phenomenal disdain, trailed by 2 guards bristling with sonic staves and attitude. Rachel had already prepared a second cup of tea. "Mint?" she offered. Glurthax waved a tentacle dismissively. "Your theatrics insult this council." "I save my theatrics for birthdays," Rachel said, pouring without spilling. "This is just manners." He sat, or rather, reconfigured himself into a seated arrangement, and fixed his largest ocular lobe on her. "You've upset the balance. Your presence here has already shifted 5 votes." "I'm flattered," she said, adding a sugar cube to his cup even though he hadn't accepted it. "I always say a good conversation changes minds. Or reveals them." "You're destabilizing the order." Rachel tilted her head. "The order where 3 major empires steal resources, lie about it, then bully Earth into compliance? That order. He gurgled. You'll push us to war. She met his gaze with calm, controlled fire. No. I'll push you to accountability. What you do with that is your choice. Glurthax surged forward, his gelatinous bulk rippling. You think we fear your world? No, she said. I think you fear what we become when we stop pretending to be impressed by you. He froze. I've read your histories, Ambassador, Rachel continued, her voice gentler. The Yargrul once ruled 10 sectors. You used fear to conquer, tradition to maintain power. Earth does things differently. We use discomfort. We use facts. And when needed, we use escalation. Is that a threat? It's a description. He drew back, silent now. Rachel handed him the cup. He didn't take it. You'll lose, he said finally. We already won, she replied. The moment you came here instead of sending assassins, we won. After he left, storming out with all the grace of an angry octopus in a fishbowl, Rachel turned back to her files. She didn't smile this time. She looked tired. Not exhausted. No, this was the fatigue of watching the same predictable chessboard unfold again and again, with new players thinking their moves were novel. Franklin chimed. Incoming delegate, Rethlin, of the Hydrax cluster. Seeking private audience. No known hostility. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Hydrax? They abstained from the last 6 votes. Interesting. She pressed a button. The door hissed open. Rethlin floated in, literally. A translucent, serpentine being suspended in a nutrient pod. He pulsed a soft blue, respectful. Ambassador Owen, he said, voice rippling like music through water. I have reviewed your proposal. Rachel gestured to the chair across from her. And? I find it persuasive. She waited. I also find it alarming, he added. Not in what you ask, but in what you imply. Rachel nodded. Clarity is often mistaken for aggression. Rethlin pulsed green, the Hydrax sign of agreement. I wish to ask plainly, what is Earth's true intention here? Rachel poured more tea. To be taken seriously. That's it. And, she added, to see how many of you panic when we say something simple. Rethlin's glow dimmed in thought. You are playing a very long game. We're used to it. Our culture was raised on slow burns. We wait. We plan. Then, we move. And the clause you inserted, Section 14E? Rachel raised her cup. Emergency arbitration in the event of proof of widespread corruption? Yes. That could trigger military response under Galactic Charter. Only if someone tries to suppress it. He floated silently for a long moment. You could bring the entire council to heel. We could, Rachel said. But we'd rather invite you to stand with us. He left without another word. Rachel sipped. The next few hours unfolded with increasing clarity. Delegates who had laughed at Earth's claim now scrambled to realign their positions. Rumors rippled like gravity waves through the station. Humans were hiding a fleet nearby. Humans had cloned diplomats. Humans had mind control coffee. Rachel let it all swirl. She added no rumors, but denied none. Franklin updated her again. Council forecast. Vote will swing in your favor by 17%. Opposition weakening. Glurthax has failed to secure a majority. Good, Rachel said. Activate Velvet Layer 2. Are you certain, ma'am? You haven't yet revealed the encrypted offer packet. Rachel stood and straightened her suit. Let's see how generous they feel before they know we were never negotiating. As the council reconvened the next cycle, tension was visible in every motion. Delegates whispered, traded glances. Some carried full dossiers printed on old-fashioned pulp. That alone was a human influence. Rachel entered last as planned. She walked the length of the chamber in silence, only pausing to nod at Harold the table, who pulsed pink in acknowledgement. She took her seat. The vote began. One by one, names lit up. Yeah. 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 Abstain. Yeah. Even Glurthax's allies had begun to fracture. Tyrex's vote came last. He looked at Rachel, antennae unreadable. Yeah. The council sealed the tally. 22 in favor. 9 opposed. 3 abstained. Earth's share on Gorthex 7 was now 20%, and by extension, a seat at the Inner Resource Allocation Bureau. Rachel stood, smiled, bowed. Then, and only then, she sent the follow-up transmission. A packet containing logs, evidence, and a single human note. Consider this your final courtesy. Because buried within that packet was a revelation none of them had expected. Earth had not discovered the antimatter veins. They had planted them. The veins had been seeded with engineered decay signatures to mimic ancient formation. It was a test. A trap. And everyone else had failed it. The council chamber erupted. Rachel left calmly. Her footsteps echoed down the hall as chaos began. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, they'd treat her like an equal. Or a threat. The lights in the grand hall of the Galactic Council flickered once, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. Most chalked it up to a momentary power fluctuation. Rachel Owen, who'd timed it to the second, gave no indication she noticed at all. She sat in the center of the chamber, flanked by lesser diplomats who now leaned away from her slightly, as though she had grown fangs. Her data slate glowed a calm blue, displaying the finalized council vote. 22 in favor. That was the public victory. The real one was already in motion. A countdown had begun in her mind, silent, efficient, inevitable. Outside the station, near the ice-blue edge of the Zalith expanse, 12 objects decloaked in perfect formation. The fleet was silent, cold, and organized in a way that made machine algorithms weep with envy. The hulls bore no insignia. No species dared claim them. But those who had studied Earth's expansion would recognize the telltale shape of Terran engineering. Clean lines, redundant systems, and weapons designed to end conversations before they began. The Council's vote had bought them just enough legitimacy to proceed. And now, every diplomatic pretense was about to be stripped away. Glurthax received the news late. He had retreated to his private chambers, boiling with impotent rage, surrounded by a staff too nervous to speak and too loyal to desert him. The failure had turned on him with brutal clarity. His allies had abandoned him, lured by Earth's offer, or simply afraid of what Rachel might reveal next. When his comm screen blinked to life, unauthorized, unrequested, he prepared to snarl at whoever had dared interrupt his brooding. But the face that appeared stopped all thought. It wasn't Rachel's. It was Admiral Rourke, Chief of Earth's Interstellar Operations. He wore a formal Navy uniform, polished to a mirror shine, with only one visible medal on his chest, a bar of obsidian denoting classified merit. "Ambassador Glurthax," Rourke said, voice low and clipped. "By now, you're aware of Earth's elevated council status. I'm here to inform you of a concurrent development. Your classified facilities on Gorthex 7 are no longer operational." Glurthax twitched. "What have you done?" "We enforce treaty compliance," Rourke replied. "Your labs were in violation. As of 14 minutes ago, they've been neutralized." "That's an act of war." "No," Rourke said calmly. "It's an audit." Across the station, Rachel stood. Her motion quieted the entire chamber. "I'd like to formally submit Earth's revised treaty enforcement proposal," she said. "Section 14E has been triggered." The delegates murmured. "That clause was hypothetical," someone protested. "Was it?" Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Because based on our surveillance, which I assure you was extremely legal under Subclause 9, you've all known about the violations. You simply assumed no one would enforce it." The Zith delegate flickered magenta. "But enforcement, that requires a majority vote." "It did," Rachel said. "Until this morning, when the Council voted Earth onto the Resource Oversight Board, which includes enforcement privileges. It's all very bureaucratic. We love bureaucracy." A soft rumble shook the chamber. Subtle, distant, but not natural. Harold, the sentient table, pulsed nervously. "Was that?" A delegate began. "Yes," Rachel said. "That was your outer perimeter failing. I told you we weren't bluffing. Panic bled into the air like gas. Tyrix, to his credit, remained composed. How many ships? Rachel gave him a half-smile. Enough. Enough to take the station? No, she said. Enough to hold it while you process your shame. Delegates began shouting, some in protest, some in plea. Rachel didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. The station's internal feed had already switched to priority override. Live footage now played on every screen. Earth's fleet locking down Gorthex 7's orbit. Defense satellites folding inward like paper under a child's hands. Human commandos, clean, swift, and disturbingly courteous, removing personnel from unauthorized research platforms. No casualties. Yet. This is a diplomatic massacre, the Drask ambassador hissed. It's a demonstration, Rachel replied, of what happens when you ignore polite warnings. Glurthax barreled into the chamber, body heaving, guards flanking him. This is madness. Rachel turned to him. Madness would have been sending the other 25 ships. That quieted him. She walked to the center of the chamber, heels clicking like countdowns, and looked at them all, those who had mocked, dismissed, and underestimated. Humans were never your underlings, she said. We didn't grovel because we were weak. We observed. We listened. We catalogued every slight and every secret. And now, you will either treat us as equals, or you'll answer to the only species here that mastered war before it mastered space. Silence. One delegate began a slow, stunned clap. Then another. Then more. It wasn't sarcastic. It was survival instinct. Rachel turned, but not before catching Glurthax's expression. Rage, confusion, something almost like fear. She smiled at him. You had your chance to treat us with respect. Now you get to learn why apex predators don't negotiate twice. Outside, battlecruisers held position in perfect silence. No one had fired. Earth didn't need to. The message was clear. Later, Rachel would retreat to her quarters, stripped of diplomacy and pretense, and remove her glasses, not for vision, but because they were laced with low-band sensor readers that had recorded every eye twitch in that chamber. Franklin chirped to life. Mission parameters, met. Operation Red Velvet complete at 92% efficiency. She sat on the edge of the bed, unzipping her boots. Send Admiral Rourke the full readout. And initiate Velvet Layer 3. Franklin hesitated. There is no Layer 3, Ambassador. Rachel smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. There is now. The air inside Diplomacy Nexus Prime no longer smelled like sandalwood and ozone. It was thicker now, humming with static tension and the aftertaste of broken protocol. The station's ambient systems, designed to maintain a sense of peace and sterile civility, struggled to compensate. Some species interpreted the discomfort as atmospheric imbalance. Others, especially those who had been in that chamber with Rachel Owen, recognized the human signature. The aftermath of dominance executed with precision and grace. Rachel stood before the viewport in her private suite, watching Earth's battlecruisers hang like patient titans in orbit. They didn't move. They didn't need to. Their presence was message enough. Ships built for peace through omnipresent consequence. The same doctrine that governed every word Rachel spoke. Her tea, now cold, sat untouched. Her hands were steady. Behind her, Franklin's voice rose gently, like a butler announcing dinner. All council channels are clear. Internal memos confirm complete deference to Earth's arbitration. Gorthex 7 has been legally reclassified as a joint territory, with Earth overseeing regulatory compliance. Rachel didn't turn. And Glurthax? Officially, he's returning to Yargrel Prime for restorative meditation. Unofficially, he's under house arrest. Rachel smiled without mirth. Restorative. That's one word for it. She finally stepped away from the window, the fabric of her suit whispering as she moved. Not a wrinkle out of place. Not a drop of blood on her hands, though others had bled. The truth was, she didn't need to shed it herself. That was the lesson Earth had perfected. Let the scalpel speak, not the hammer. Franklin's tone shifted. There is a request. From Tyrix. Of course, She seated herself cross-legged on the chaise, as though she weren't the most dangerous woman on the station. Let him in. The Kralathi envoy entered with slow, deliberate grace. His chiton shimmered less now, dulled not by defeat, but by realization. The predator recognizing a rival. "I've come to deliver the official statement," he said, "and to ask an unofficial question." Rachel gestured to the chair across from her. "Let's start with the easy one." Tyrex sat, mandibles tight. "The council concedes. You've established your claim, legally and practically. Earth is no longer a junior member. You are something else." Rachel nodded once. "And the question?" Tyrex studied her. "Why now? Why this? You could have pushed for more. You could have taken Gorthex entirely. Broken the council. But you didn't. Why?" Rachel's answer came quietly, but with steel beneath it. "Because we didn't want the galaxy. Just the seat at the table where no one questions if we belong." "That's not all," Tyrex said. "No," she agreed. "It's not. But that's the part one wants you to remember." He leaned forward. "You laid the trap years ago. Embedded agents, seeded antimatter, forged decay patterns. It wasn't ambition. It was orchestration. Why plan it with such patience?" Rachel didn't blink. "Because humans don't win through brute force. We win by making you believe you never had a choice." Tyrex absorbed that, slow and deliberate. "And what if one day, someone else plays your game better?" "Then we adapt," she said. "Or we disappear. That's how we survived Earth in the first place." He sat back, eyes narrowing with reluctant admiration. "You came here with tea and a smile. And left with sovereignty," she finished. Silence stretched between them. Not awkward. Heavy. Full of recognition. Finally, Tyrex stood. "For what it's worth, Ambassador. I think some of us were waiting for this." "For what?" "For someone to remind us what fear feels like." When he left, he did not bow. He didn't need to. Rachel stood alone again, the hum of the station returning to the fore. She took the cold tea and poured it into the sink, watching the liquid spiral away. Everything left eventually. Even warmth. Franklin returned. "You have one final message pending." "Source?" "Encrypted. Level Omega." That made her pause. "Display it." The message unfurled in the air, lines of text cascading in red. No hologram. No voice. Just words. Velvet Layer 3 approved. Proceed with contingency broadcast. All nodes in place. She stared for a long moment. Then deleted it. "I won't need it," she said. Franklin hesitated. "Ma'am?" Rachel looked out the window again. "They believe now. That's all that was ever required." In the days that followed, a strange thing happened. The applause started. Not all at once. Not loudly. But in snippets. Across channels. In after-action reports. In whispered corridors and encrypted transmissions. Delegates who had once sneered now spoke of Rachel with language usually reserved for legends. Not fondly, but with awe. The Hydrax cluster released a joint statement praising Earth's strategic elegance. The Drask offered trade expansions. Even the Zith, normally neutral to the point of paralyzing indecision, requested to study human cultural doctrine in formal exchange. Applause came in the form of silence too. In the absence of protest. In the way no one dared question Earth's next proposal. The galaxy hadn't just accepted Earth. It had adjusted to make room. Rachel walked through the station like gravity itself had shifted. Not heavier. Just acknowledged. Delegates nodded. Doors opened without hesitation. Eyes followed her, not with suspicion, but with the wary reverence afforded to apex predators. Not predators of blood or brute. Predators of subtlety. The kind that smiled before the kill. The kind that never needed to kill at all. She was finishing another session with the Hydrax diplomatic envoys, glowing eels with psychic resonance, when a young intern intercepted her in the corridor. An alien adolescent, no more than 17 in human years, wide-eyed and trembling. "Ambassador," he said, stammering. Can I? I mean, could I ask you something? She paused, patient. Was it all planned? Every step? Rachel tilted her head. What do you think? The intern hesitated. Yes. She smiled. Good instinct. Keep it. He stood there a moment longer, unsure whether to fear or admire. Then he scurried off. Rachel continued walking. By the week's end, the Council had ratified Earth's enforcement rights. The battle cruisers pulled back, not in retreat, but in closure. Their mission had ended not with war, but with obedience. Earth didn't conquer. They compelled. In her final Council appearance of the cycle, Rachel took the podium as an equal. Not called up, not introduced. She simply began to speak. We are not your enemy, she said. But we are no longer your underestimation. This galaxy thrives on equilibrium, but when it fails it requires correction. That is what humans are. We are the correction. Not through violence. Through clarity. Through resolve. She looked at each delegate in turn, holding their gaze. When we joined this council, we were laughed at for bringing baked goods to negotiation tables. For offering handshakes instead of plasma. For asking too many questions. Now she paused. And you mistook that for softness. But humans are not soft. We are deliberate. We just prefer the second option. Until you make it the only one. The chamber was silent when she left. Not stunned this time. Listening. That night, she returned to her suite, exhausted in a way no tea could solve. She removed her jacket. Set her pin aside. Unclasped the glasses. Franklin's light blinked on. You have no remaining threats, Ambassador. All operations are closed. Rachel sat on the edge of the bed and looked around. No one clapped. No music played. The moment she had built for 5 decades passed like breath in a vacuum. Then we wait, she said. For what? For the next time someone mistakes kindness for surrender. And beyond the stars, where the light from Earth still shimmered like fire in the dark, the galaxy held its breath. Because now it knew. The humans had been polite monsters all along. And they were done asking.